Pittsburgh and brought Coach Lean along with him, who was at UVA as well under Coach Garland.
Yeah, somewhat of a homecoming for those two out of the Steve Garland coaching tree. You talked about it when we were off air. A lot of communication, a lot of almost hugs tonight as they were all welcoming one another back to familiar territory.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of people were excited to see Coach Gavin, and talking to some guys who were on the team in years past wrestling for Coach Gavin just says he's one of the most technically savvy coaches that you'll ever meet, just a really good guy and very knowledgeable about the sport, and it shows with what he's done with Pittsburgh in such a short period of time.
Well, you know, we're excited to be wrestling. Everybody is. With the way the year has gone, with the way the season has gone, it's just nice to see these two teams be able to hit the mat tonight, Christian.
Yeah, it's nice to see that, you know, there's going to be, you know, very little hiccups in the wrestling season with what's going on and finding ways to adjust it. I think that's really about the sport of wrestling, suffering through adversity and being able to make things happen. So first matchup here, 125 pounds, Patrick McCormick from UVA taking on Colton Camacho from Pittsburgh. And in the pre-match mentioned, this is one of the matches we look, you know, to be one of the matches that really makes an impact on the dual meet.
Great to hear that opening whistle, and you know the birthday boy's got to lead it off, and Patrick McCormick, who ends up on the mat for UVA going against Camacho. Camacho, the redshirt freshman out of Delmont, Pennsylvania's Franklin Regional High School. What a location that is for so many talented wrestlers to emerge over the years.
Yeah, especially at the 125-pound weight class. Wrestling fans know Franklin Regional, 125 pounds. You think immediately to Iowa, Spencer Lee. And not to take the spotlight away from Camacho, but Spencer Lee, your top-ranked 125-pounder in the country. Two guys from the same high school, and a lot of tradition there. Another Pittsburgh guy, wrestled at Penn State, Nico Magaludis, 125-pound national champion from Franklin Regional High School as well. And what we're seeing here early in this bout is Colton Camacho controlling the ties, getting to that 2-on-1, and McCormick's got to wrestle his way back to the center.
You referenced Spencer Lee, that Hodge Trophy winner who's expected to lead Iowa back to the charge in terms of national championship competition once again this year, which we're glad to know not going to happen. It's as we work our way toward the middle of the month of March in St. Louis as matches are underway. And this one underway, what are you seeing early from these two, and what do you expect will be the determining factor in this one, Christian?
Well, one thing Camacho's doing well is he's keeping his butt towards the center of the mat. And on that exchange right there, McCormick did a good job evading a stall call by wrestling his way back into the center, looking for reattacks. And that's going to be, you know, as we look almost 2 minutes into this opening matchup of the duel, you know, early points are going to be big, because as we were talking off air before, you know, the match started, is wrestling on the mat's going to be a real, you know, difference maker here.
Holding center thus far, as you see just under a minute now remaining in the opening period. Mentioned Patrick McCormick, he's got family ties. His father, Mike, wrestled here at UVA, 85 to 90. His mom was a cheerleader at Maryland. I'm not sure how that works with the DMV rivalry, but somehow they were able to work that out and following in his father's footsteps here. And talk about following in footsteps. He's found this spot in the lineup trying to fill the shoes of All-American Jack Mueller, which is a challenge.
Yeah, big shoes to fill, but you know, when you got a guy like that, Pat came in last year as a freshman, got to learn from Mueller. You know, he probably would argue otherwise, probably got his butt kicked a little bit by him in the room and made him a better wrestler. That's why he's prepared to enter this season as a freshman, you know, take that starting job for UVA, and a good underhook shooting Camacho out of bounds. And that's going to be a stall call on Camacho early in this bout. 10 seconds to go. Could be, you know, big as we get into the later part of the match. Good shot there. And McCormick controlling the underhook, but good head position for Camacho.
So they battle it even, Camacho and McCormick, through the first period. You look at the season for Virginia so far. It got started with that individual quad at App State, which they had so many wrestlers perform well. 11 of them go unbeaten at that individual quad. But in actual dual action, to this point, 1 and 2, still looking for their first ACC victory.
Yeah, and the ACC, there are no easy matchups. You've got 4 teams ranked in, you know, in the top 20, you know, and just so much wrestling that, you know, so many top-ranked wrestlers where you go, there's really no easy matchup in the ACC. So,
and how many teams in the country 0-2 in their conferences, Christian, can boast the 2 top 10 losses? They lost to 4th-ranked NC State, 8th-ranked Virginia Tech last weekend. That's how the 2 losses have been handed to UVA.
You know, it was those matches that you don't really look at on paper as being the difference makers. And a good escape there for McCormick. Shoots Camacho out of bounds. Looked like it could have been a stall call there, but no stalling on the edge. 1-point lead for McCormick. And, you know, Matt Wrestling, a really big difference maker in these matchups. So McCormick getting out in 30 seconds, not only good for the point total, but really big for his confidence, being able to get back to his feet where he really was starting to hit his stride at the end of that first period.
And McCormick, who came in 4 and 3 with the escape as the lone point either of these wrestlers have secured thus far. You were talking about looking on down the card today at some of those matchups that maybe don't have the rankings beside their name, but are going to be critical to the success of these 2 teams.
Yeah, and UVA's winning this one early with McCormick. Got the 1-0 lead just over halfway through this bout, starting to push the action, but really good hand fight here. Good underhook, drives Camacho out of bounds. We'll see there. Do we get the stall call? Yes, we do. So a stalling point on the edge. McCormick takes that second point, and it looks like Coach Gavin not too happy about that, looking for an edge call, but you see there on the edge. No, so official's gonna stick to their original call, stalling on Camacho. So a big point here as McCormick takes a 2-0 lead. Just about 30 seconds left to go in the second period.
You saw Kevin Gavin there, 4th season, the progress visible from one year to the next under his direction and under his leadership for the coach experiencing that homecoming we discussed in the open. He's watching Colton Camacho right now. Camacho coming off of a bout against Jacob Camacho in Raleigh last weekend. Of course, the reigning ACC champion for NC State. So been a tough go of it in terms of competition for Camacho as he now trails McCormick 2-0 inside the final 10 seconds of the second round.
And so 2 freshmen looking to put their team out on top in a battle of familiar coaches. So end of the second period, McCormick takes a 2-0 lead.
Well, for Pitt, that was the lone setback, that battle they just came off of at NC State, a 27-6 loss at the hands of the 2-time ACC champion Wolfpack. Otherwise, it's been an outstanding start to the season.
Yeah, they've got 3 wrestlers ranked in the top 11, really 3 guys who were ranked in the top 7 before suffering losses to NC State last weekend, and a quick escape for Camacho makes it 2-1. But, you talk about improvement and progress and just being positive, and the things that you've seen out of Coach Gavin in his first 4 years, just really building on just continuously getting these athletes more and more prepared and getting better towards the end of the season. So
you look at the season as a whole, both these teams looking for a rebound victory, looking for a bounce back type performance here tonight.
Yeah, and both suffering really tough losses, really great teams that, have won. Both of their previous losses were to teams that had won the ACC, I believe, the last 5 years. So, you go back and look at NC State and Virginia Tech losses. Maybe to these teams, tough losses, but really nothing to hang your head on as 2 of the best teams in the country. And both teams put up a good fight, had a chance to win those matches, but just couldn't come away.
1915 was the final over in Blacksburg when the Commonwealth Clash was renewed last weekend. And Virginia coming off that 1915 loss. Again, NC State 27-6, the final over Pitt, a team still ranked in the top 15 in the country. And these 2 have fought it to a 2-1 score inside the final minute now.
So 40 seconds left to go, and you look at Camacho starting to sprint here, knowing he's got to go, and that's a stall call on McCormick, ties it up. So we're at 2-2, just over 30 seconds to go in the third period.
Tone-setting match for these 2 teams, both believing they have a very real chance to pick up a key win on their season tonight, and 30 seconds and change to settle it now.
So it looked like McCormick was starting to put the gas on at the end of the first, really pretty even at the end of the second. Now Camacho's motor's running a little bit stronger than McCormick's. Looking like he's slowing down, and Camacho looking fresh. looking to put shots together, chaining them, and McCormick jacks that underhook up, and now Camacho underhook on the left. Good hips by McCormick, so it looks like we're going to head to overtime.
Yeah, the 7 minutes, unless something happens here in 0.7 seconds, the 7 minutes not going to be enough to settle it between Patrick McCormick and Colton Camacho to begin things.
So you just look at body language. Right? At the end of that first, or at the end of the third period, as they're heading into overtime, Camacho's hands are up. He's moving his feet, and look at McCormick, hands on the knees, right? Looking like he's a little bit more tired than Camacho. So does that make the difference? We'll find out here in overtime.
And how about this, Christian? The push for early points between 12th-ranked Pittsburgh and Virginia rests on the back of a couple of freshmen now in extra time.
Yeah, both guys, looking to, I believe they're looking to get their first ACC win. Both freshmen looking to get not only the first win of their season in the ACC, but also of their career. So this could be a, big matchup for these two young men.
And in-state, or in the case of Pennsylvania and Virginia, inside the Commonwealth respectively for those two products. Virginia State champion 4 times is McCormick, and of course Colton Camacho from Delmont, Pennsylvania. And 35 seconds now between them in the first of these extra periods.
McCormick's got to work back in. Both wrestlers already given up a stalling, and Camacho continues to push the action. Good re-attack in on a swing single. He's got to elevate that foot as McCormick starts to cut the corner, sits him to his butt, but he's locked in the center. Official calls 2, and a big takedown to win the match in overtime. And if you'd think,
yeah, sudden point style. The
Coach
victory
Garland's
of
got the brick. He's throwing
4-2.
it. So.
Walk us back through this here.
Yeah.
We'll break away. Be back with more between Virginia and Pitt right after this. So back inside Mim Gym, where we are under an official review, what appeared initially to be a sudden point victory in extra time for Camacho is being looked at right now. Christian, walk us through what the coaches saw there.
Yeah, and I was looking at Coach Garland. I thought he was going to throw the brick, but being the first match of the duel, you don't want to lose that challenge early. So Camacho gets an angle, drops in on the single leg, and McCormick does a good job stuffing that head underneath. He starts to sit the corner here, and he's got those hands locked in between the legs. Right. Camacho's got both, but doesn't look like he's controlling the hips, and they end up awarding the takedown. So big takedown here for the freshman, wins the match, but also you've got 9 more matches, and Coach Garland has already lost his challenge.
So the loss of the challenge, the loss of the tone-setting match as well. Colton Camacho, a 4-2 winner. Back with more in Charlottesville in just a moment. With a win for Pitt in the 125-pound classification, we now turn our attention at 133. And this is the first of a couple of wrestlers we'll see tonight with extended streaks, unbeaten on the year.
Yeah, and Mickey Filippi, he's got the 4th longest win streak in the ACC at 17 matches. Familiar to Charlottesville, started his career off at the University of Virginia. So these two probably teammates at one point or another, a little bit familiar with each other. So Louis Hayes jacking up that underhook to start the match, and that's where he's good. Real strong in those upper body ties.
You mentioned it, a former Wahoo. He was here for the 16-17 campaign, his redshirt season at UVA. Followed Coach Gavin to Pitt, and why not? It was a homecoming for him. He's from Derry, Pennsylvania, now a redshirt junior, as the 4th ranked wrestler in his weight classification goes to work. He was an NCAA qualifier, an ACC champion in 19 and 20, 25-1 last season. And a 2-time defending ACC champion going to work here. Just a remarkable win streak on the line. And again, he and Aiello, who is 6-0 with Philippi at 5-0, are the two you will see tonight who are unblemished so far in 2021.
Yeah, and one thing I'm noticing here early, Louis Hayes getting to his ties, doing a good job controlling underhooks, has that 2-on-1. He was controlling the right arm. Philippi started to peel off. He switched to the left. But one thing Philippi's doing is beating him in the head fight. Hayes is doing a good job getting to his controlled tie, but Philippi doing a good job actually beating him in head position. So
not unusual for him. 50-5 at Pitt, 92-16 overall when you talk in terms of his career for the young man out of Derry, PA.
Really impressive.
There you see Louis Hayes' numbers there. He's at a Carl Sandburg High in Orland Park, Illinois, and the 12th ranked wrestler in his class, respectively. He was, Christian, off to a 6-0 start, but is coming off a tough go of it in the Commonwealth Clash last weekend.
Yeah, wrestled Corbin Myers last week from Virginia Tech, and Corbin Myers just tough, and a nice inside trip attempt for Louis Hayes. Doing a good job controlling those underhooks and a beautiful takedown off that Metzger. So really curious to know, were these two teammates at one point or another? Did they ever wrestle with each other? And, seeing that Louis Hayes is getting to those underhook control ties early in this match, maybe saying, I knew this was a weakness of Philippi.
What he saw from Hayes, watching him from a distance along the way, 2020 and 2018 NCAA qualifier in that 18 campaign, an all-ACC campaign for the redshirt senior out of Illinois. So knows a little bit about battling too. One of 9 siblings, 5 brothers, 4 sisters. You got to fight for everything in that kind of household. And here's a look at the takedown.
So Hayes did a good job jacking up the underhook on the left, and he went to fake it like he was going to the same side and switched his hand and dumped him to his butt. So a good takedown there for Hayes, takes a 2-1 lead, and as I say that, Philippi gets an escape, ties it up at 2-2.
I know you're from a big wrestling family, but think about that. 5 brothers, 4 sisters. You got to be fighting for everything along the way. That's what turns you in to the kind of competitor we're seeing from Louis Hayes here.
Well, that's probably why he's only wrestling 133. If he was an only child, he might be wrestling heavyweight.
There you go.
Probably got to fight for the last chicken wing at dinner every night. So
his hands full with Philippi right now, and as you said, even at 2 apiece. What do you see this one coming down to, Christian?
And I think it's going to be one of the big things, finishing periods on the mat. And then we'll see how Philippi wrestles on top, because he is great there. And as he gets to a nice right-handed swing single, got that leg up high, gets to a trip, and Hayes defending so far, looked for a headlock, but gave up that takedown. And this is where I see the difference coming in right here. Is Philippi got that takedown, Hayes got the takedown in the first. Philippi got an escape. Philippi's got the takedown here in the second, and if he rides out here, going to be a big difference here, and really going to make Louis Hayes think about what choice he's going to make heading into the third period.
And doing so has doubled up Hayes on the scoreboard at the moment here as you're watching the 133-pound classification work through the second round.
So did a good job keeping his hips in there and keeping Louis Hayes flat. So 28 seconds on the restart.
Well, the moment of the match so far for Philippi.
Did a really good job getting that single leg up high, getting it all the way above his hip. And one thing you want to watch, kids at home, he's not tripping with his heel. He's doing a good job tripping with that toe.
Well, you talked about the history between these two. You wondered just how much of it there was in terms of their knowledge of one another here. Here's what it's been like when they've gone toe-to-toe with one another.
Yeah, so last year, looks like the ACC tournament, Louis Hayes lost 1-0, and then really matches besides that haven't been as close. 8-4 and 6-1 wins for Mickey Filippi over Louis Hayes in years past. So doing a good job staying on top, and he's got to finish this period on top. Really big difference between good wrestlers and great wrestlers. Looking for that head and looking for a fall, but looking to hold on and stay in the top position to end the period, but not going to.
Nothing awarded there, but tremendous agility from Filippi to stay at the 4-2 spot in scoring as we head into the third round.
So I'm curious what's to happen here, and looks like Louis.
Well, Hayes was in the down position there, but they're going to go with a neutral start now, it appears.
Yeah, Coach Garland looked like he wanted to put him down.
Back to the down position for Hayes.
Yeah, you could tell Louis didn't want to go on bottom. He wanted to go up on his feet and try to win the match there. So 4-2 heading into the third. And Filippi's good here on top. So if I was Hayes, I probably would have picked neutral to start the third. But searching for that head, got the escape.
Well, it looks like that was at least part of the conversation there as he went into a neutral position before going back into the down. Think about the start for Hayes this season when he was 6-0 before that setback last weekend. 3 wins by pin, a tech fall, and a major decision as a part of that 6-0 start. So he has had his moments already. He's hoping to find another here in the final 90 seconds of this match.
So Hayes doing such a great job. Watch him with that left side underhook. He fakes to one side, he goes the other. He goes one side, he pulls the head down. And that's just, you got to keep your opponent guessing, but a strong guy like Mickey Filippi, keeping his hips squared, not rotating, fake or biting on those fakes from Hayes makes it really difficult to get an angle.
And Filippi a minute away from remaining perfect as he has that slimmest of advantages at 4-3.
And Filippi, a hard guy to beat in ACC action over the last couple years. 2-time defending ACC champ.
And listen to the record one more time. It's worth repeating. 25-1 last season. And of course, we've already mentioned the 17-match winning streak that is on the line across these final 33 seconds or so.
And you hear the coaches towards the UVA bench yelling for a stall call. We had a stalling early in the second period. Hayes been pushing all the action in the third, and that's going to save Filippi on this match. A nice single leg gets in on Hayes.
Trying to salt away the final 10 seconds now, as in command is Filippi here.
Not going to do much for the scoreboard. Not going to change the result on the scoreboard, but going to take off 15 of the remaining 20 seconds. And
it's going to end up being Mickey Filippi making 18 in a row. And Christian, here's the takedown that settled it for Filippi.
Nice takedown and reach for the head, but Hayes doesn't get it. Filippi gets the win at 133 pounds.
Coach Papalizio and the third-ranked NC State Wolfpack having become quite the measuring stick in recent years in the ACC. You see what an impact they had on a number of unbeaten wrestlers for Pitt in last week's meet.
Yeah, Cole Matthews starting off one of 4 ranked wrestlers who lost last week against NC State, looking to rebound here. Both of these wrestlers had really close matches with Tariq Wilson, so if we're using the transitive property, these wrestlers should be pretty evenly matched here, so we'll see. Number 14th ranked Cole Matthews from Pittsburgh taking on unranked Brian Courtney, but Courtney, one of those guys that's just on the outside of the rankings. He's really, really tough, had a great high school career, and just one of those wrestlers who's, he started to make his stride as a freshman, got hurt, had a good season last year, but I think this year is one of those years that he's just looking to take off and make an impact in the ACC.
And at 5-1, he had a strong opening weekend down at Appalachian State, had a pair of wins, one of which was by technical fall, and he has 4 bonus point wins on the year for Virginia. Squaring off against Greenville, Pennsylvania's Cole Matthews out of Reynolds High School. Young man was 15-9 with a 9-3 mark in tournament action a year ago, and was 130 win product, including a championship as a freshman in 2015. You talked about the outstanding high school career. Those are just some of the numbers to back it up for the two-time Ironman finalist who is now representing Pittsburgh on the mat.
So both of these wrestlers hail from the state of Pennsylvania. Like you said, Cole Matthews from Reynolds, Pennsylvania, and Brian Courtney from Athens area high school, Sayre, Pennsylvania, two-time state champion. Oh, nice snap down there. Looked like he bounced his head off the mat. Saw the wooden floor underneath the mat, treated his head like a basketball there.
Well, and we referenced NC State in the ACC. How about the strength of the Atlantic Coast Conference so far? Pitt, one of 4 ACC teams in the top 15. NC State at 3, Virginia Tech at 8, Pitt at 12, North Carolina at 14. And, of course, that common opponent, both of them losing to now number 3, NC State, a team with a 21 dual match win streak, the top mark in the country at this point for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, like you said, NC State has become the measuring stick in what Coach Popolizio has done for that program. And I remember back in about 2012, 2013, that program was really on its last leg, and Coach Popolizio really, injected a lot of life into the program, done a great job, won several consecutive ACC championships, like 21-match dual streak, the best in the country, better than, the defending national champions, Penn State, who's won 7 of the last 8, and then Iowa, who was arguably, the favorite to win the national tournament last year. So a lot of action in the first period, scoreless.
And they just seem to reload. Well, we talk about the ACC. We remind you we'll have our first men's lacrosse game of the season and a wrestling doubleheader. Number 1, Duke hosts number 5, Denver at 3 Eastern, 1 Mountain. And then at 6, the Blue Devil Wrestlers take on these Wahoos of Virginia. Then number 3, NC State squares off against the other crew out of the Commonwealth, number 8, Virginia Tech. All that coming up on the ACC network right around the corner, just a week from tonight. Into the second round of action between these two is Courtney and Matthews, with now Matthews working his way into the down position here. Just finishing up a little bit on the ACC when you talk in terms of those matchups next weekend in NC State. It's like they just reload. I mean, Pitt fans found out last week Isaac Trimble, the latest of those to be an impact player. He's earned Wrestler of the Week honors after the 6-1 win over Bonacorsi, who we'll see just a little bit later on, and did it in his collegiate debut, Christian. It's like they just keep plugging the holes with new talent there in Raleigh these days.
The rich get richer, right? But that's the thing. When you've got a tradition of winning, you've got a great culture, it just brings a lot of good people around. And, that's what you see Coach Gavin's done in such a short period of time at Pittsburgh, only 4 years in, bringing this team to top 12. Coach Garland done a great job of not only just building a great tradition of wrestling here at UVA, but just building a good tradition of bringing in good, solid young men to represent this institution. So
many talk about him as a character coach. Just what a great guy he is. Taking over on the 20th of April, 2006, and in 15 seasons, Steve Garland with 13 All-Americans, 19 individual titles. Of course, how many guys can say they were an ACC Wrestler of the Year and an ACC Coach of the Year candidate? He was the Atlantic Coast Conference champion at 125 in 1997. It's been a good hire for Virginia, to say the least.
Yeah, and it's always special to see coaches lead the helm of their alma mater. It's so funny to me when you see coaches who wrestled at one school and they're all gung-ho about what school they went to, and then what do you know, a week later, they get a job at a new school and they're wearing different colors. It always just looks a little bit funny to me, but we don't have to deal with that in this matchup. Coach Garland wrestled at UVA. Coach Gavin wrestled at Pittsburgh. So another action-packed period. Really nothing of note in terms of scoring points, although Courtney was warned for a stalling in the beginning of the second period, and then Matthews eventually gets an escape to take a 1-0 lead. Good changeover to start the period, up to his feet right away. And one thing Courtney does a great job is he does a really good job loading up and getting, his opponent to react with fakes. But what I'm seeing here is he's not pulling the trigger on it. He's getting good reactions out of Matthews on his fakes, but he's not going all the way through and penetrating to get to that second level and get to the legs. So as I say that, in deep, Matthews hops over, looking for that near side ankle to try to pass. Now, Courtney's got to get his head up here, starts to sit back and pressure in. He's got to turn and rotate that knee. Looking for the danger zone here.
Just able to get the shoulder blades down for a moment.
And we're looking danger zone now. Good scramble, but those knees getting a little tied up. As the great Ken Berger would call it, some spaghetti wrestling there. So,
and you can hear the participants there in Mim Gym really coming to life at the moment as well.
Yeah, they know how important this matchup is. 6-0 lead for Pittsburgh after 2 matches, and going down 9-0 when Pittsburgh has just a great wrestler after great wrestler after great wrestler coming up, right? It's tough to keep up when you're down 9-0 and they've got a loaded back 7.
Trying to prevent that from happening. Pittsburgh already out to the 6-0 advantage after victories by Camacho and Philippi. Back-to-back to get things started at 125 and 133 respectively. And now inside the final 20 seconds here.
So Courtney's got that ankle hooked. He's got to get his foot out. He's going to get the takedown if he gets it. And Matthews doing everything he can to hold on. A takedown with 10 seconds to go, going to be the difference here at 141 pounds to put the Who's back in.
Right in the nick of time. It's Brian Courtney, who had a strong opening weekend. He's bookended it with a solid takedown, which will secure the first match victory for UVA on the day against Pitt. College basketball season heating up. Tomorrow we'll have a big basketball quadruple header. It starts at 2 Eastern with Miami and Wake Forest, followed by number 16 Florida State and Georgia Tech. Then it's number 8 Virginia, the Wahoos, taking on number 20 Virginia Tech in the Commonwealth Clash. And finally, it's Pitt hosting Notre Dame. You can always watch these games on the ESPN app if you're out and about. And both of these two teams, Christian, involved on the hardwood tomorrow, as you can see Pitt and Notre Dame, as well as that Commonwealth Clash, highly anticipated right here in Charlottesville. And here's another of the highly anticipated matches. Denton Spencer and Luke Kimmerer at the 149-pound classification. What do you keep an eye on here, Christian?
Well, 2 wrestlers coming into this matchup with losing records. So, while most may overlook this matchup, this is one of the ones on paper that you really look at and say, this is going to be a difference maker in the duel. So a really nice low single for Denton. Spencer gets in and does a great job getting his head up. Now he's looking to come out the back door, but Kemmerer does a great job passing that leg. Now it's his job to get his head up and advance his position, but Spencer elevating the left foot.
And Denton Spencer, you're looking at a guy who knows how to finish. He finished in the top 10, 8th to be specific, in the entire NCAA in pins last season. His 10 against Division I opponents came in just over 16 minutes total time.
Well, and that's one of the things about Denton Spencer. He's not known to be the best wrestler on his feet, but they call him Double Boots Denton. He's really good on top. He's really good once he gets those legs in, and it's really tough once he gets them in. He cranks that power half and gets a lot of falls there. So I'd be really surprised if we head to period number 2. Kemmerer's got choice and he picks bottom. But, you know, it looks like by that early shot attempt from Denton, he's looking to get on top with his offense, not just wait for the end of the period.
And Kemmerer, a guy with a very high ceiling. They're still looking for him to find the next gear, but he's an individual that Coach Kevin Gavin and his staff talk about as having all the tools necessary to really make it to the next level.
Yeah, and Kemmerer, he had a great high school career, Whoopeel champion, wrestled at Hempfield Area High School where he was 3rd in the state one year, and he's looking to build on that. You know, the Whoopeel, one of the best wrestling areas in the country for high school wrestling, staying close to home in Pittsburgh, so you know, we'll look for him to improve on his 2-3 record and get to 500 on the season with the win over Denton Spencer today. So
another of the many Pennsylvania natives, as you brought up there, up and down this roster. And talk about the challenge for Kevin Gavin that is going to be there, Christian, because he's got to go against Penn State, one of the great historic dynasties in this sport, just across the Commonwealth, to find a way to wrestle away young men like Kemmerer and beyond on down the roster against a historic powerhouse like Penn State makes the challenge even a little more difficult.
Yeah, it does make it tough to recruit in state, but Pennsylvania, I mean, there's just so many great wrestlers. Like Penn State can't have all of them on their roster. They can only have about 35, so that gives Gavin a little bit of an advantage. So
yeah, you're still going to a very wrestling-rich portion of the country, no doubt about it. Through 1, nothing on the board for either of these two.
Well, if there were live betting odds on this, I would have picked for Kemmerer to not pick bottom, and he picked neutral. So a win there for me against the bookies today, and starting the second period on our feet. So you look like it looks like Kemmerer is trying to keep the distance. He's doing a lot of measuring of Spencer with that left hand, making sure he doesn't get close to ties, because Spencer looks to be the stronger wrestler, a little bit more compact.
Yeah, mostly hand fighting here in the early stages of round number 2.
Yeah, a couple shot attempts early, but really nothing, no one too close to scoring besides that early low single attempt for Spencer. Great snap downs for Spencer from those over collar ties.
Virginia trying to build upon the momentum of Brian Courtney's victory over Cole Matthews just prior to the last break. That put the Wahoos on the board. You see the overall team score up in the right-hand corner of your screen through the 3 matches we've witnessed thus far. So this is a momentum-type bout for Denton Spencer and the Cavaliers.
Yeah, and a good swing single for Luke Kemmerer. Gets in, gets his head up. Now he's looking to split the middle, pick a side, but not able to do so far as Spencer tying up those ankles. And as Kemmerer starts to rotate in, and looks like Spencer traps that far ankle, so no one's going to be able to get much ground there. Getting a restart with a stalemate up to our feet. 24 seconds left in the first period here.
Yeah,
second
period. Spencer and Kemmerer still filling one another out as we get into the depths of this one. Final 10 seconds for someone to have an advantage heading into the third and final period. But we see a little more hand fighting here as we get that horn that indicates it will be 0-0 heading into the third. Denton Spencer, a transfer from Gardner-Webb University, which is just on the North Carolina-South Carolina border. Interestingly enough, his lone win this year, the win he picked up, came against his prior teammates. He wrestled against Gardner-Webb. That was the home opening duel for Virginia against the Gardner-Webb Running Bulldogs, and it was his moment of success. As you can see, he's still looking for his first ACC moment of glory this year.
Great first move from Kemmerer. Gets up to his feet right away, lift and return, and Denton Spencer tries to lift and, Kemmerer tries to lift and return. Big lift. Official calls a locking hands on that lift and return as Spencer tried to roll through, and the challenge brick comes out.
A brick immediately hits the front of that scorer's table as the 1-0 score is posted.
So Coach Gavin immediately ran up to the table, threw that brick, and
we saw Steve Garland use his right out of the gate, had that challenge brick on the very opening battle at 125. Now let's see what Kevin Gavin saw that made him want to throw the brick at the table.
It couldn't really see the hands there on that angle. Looks like a locked hands from there. Yeah, you look there, that's definitely gonna stand. So Pittsburgh is gonna lose their challenge if this holds. And really a huge point, because instead of just needing a takedown to tie, or to win the match, now Kemmerer needs a takedown to tie it up and send it to overtime.
And both of our coaches tossing those challenge bricks in the first handful of matches here today, in the first 4 that we've seen. And now the ruling of locked hands being assessed at the scorer's table. Well, you talk about what a huge call as we're already in the third period. This is going to end up being, Christian.
Yeah, well, I guess the fans at home can be a little bit more excited not to have as many delays in the match now that both challengers are gone. So
yeah,
2-0 lead, Denton Spencer, 146 on the restart in the third period. Kemmerer is going to need a takedown to force overtime.
Neither of those coaching challenges stand up, and you mentioned it, now gone for both Steve Garland and Kevin Gavin, two very familiar with one another. If you missed it when we talked about it in the open, the head coach of the Pitt Panthers, at one time on the staff of the head coach of the Virginia Cavaliers. That familiarity, playing to a 6-3 overall team score at the moment, and now just under a minute and a half to settle it between these two at 149.
So good high crotch by Kemmerer. Denton Spencer looks to scoot the corner, he's got a lock, throws it over. Now he passes the leg and he's getting his head up, improving the position. Now ankle passes again. And Kemmerer's got that far ankle trapped, but
tremendous sense of urgency as we go under 1 minute remaining.
And he's got to keep that far ankle to keep this position alive, but as Kemmerer advances position, Spencer loses that ankle. Now he's got that foot hooked, he pops that head out, looks for the takedown, and Spencer tries to roll through and was close to getting up that back point. So 2-2.
Timely response from Kemmerer here.
And a ride out going to be huge to force overtime, but we saw Spencer get out in 15 seconds to start the period. We'll see if he can get out with 20 to go in the third.
Boy, close there, but not quite able to get completely to his feet.
12 seconds to go in the third period. We'll see if he can get the escape.
Well, this is what evened it.
Had that Turk in there, really hard to get Kemmerer's hips off.
So Kemmerer is going to have Denton Spencer in the down position with 12 seconds remaining in a tied match.
So 12 to go, 2-2. And this is all about heart and will right here. Can Spencer push himself to get the escape? 12 seconds to go to win the bout. We'll see as he tries to roll through. Kemmerer almost catches on his back. And that's going to send us to overtime. 4 matches in.
For the second time
overtime.
in 4 matches, it's going to take a little extra beyond the 7 minutes to settle it. And those who are allowed in Mim Gym tonight, the staff, the personnel, the team members, certainly being entertained. And those of us watching from a distance, those of you at home, getting the money's worth between these 12th-ranked Panthers and the Virginia Cavaliers. Now 1 fresh minute up on the clock, and the first to score will take home a W.
I really enjoy when we get a little bit of overtime wrestling. It's, to me, the closest thing to like when you go to one of those old school diners and they give you a free ice cream cone at the end with your dinner.
A happy ending all the way around.
Just a little bit of extra treat at the end of something good. So,
well, you know, you get the 1 minute sudden victory period, then it goes to 2 half-minute tiebreaker periods in which the position swap is in effect if they can't settle it here in the final 30.
So nice shot there. Kemmerer gets in deep, looking to post that knee off, and the foot comes off, so that's going to be the match regardless because he's going to give up the point. Spencer's shoe came off, so if he wouldn't have got
Well, this is how the tight match between Spencer and Kemmerer came to a close. A loss of shoe, a loss of this, the 4th match. A lot more wrestling to come. Stay with us. Back to Charlottesville after this break. Well, we move forward to the match at 157. Justin McCoy making major progress 1 year to the next. When you talk in terms of the growth of an individual, that's what you want to see, Christian.
Yeah, and Justin McCoy, one of those, you know, the coaching staff was really high on coming into the season, or excuse me, when he came onto campus, and he's done a really good job. And what you want to see from an athlete in any sport is when they come, you know, when they get to their junior season on campus, they're a little bit better than they were their freshman year. And McCoy's doing a good job of that. So ranked 15th in the nation this year, doing a good job so far on that leg, bringing it up.
And he's a strong starter, a pair of first period wins opening weekend. Of course, 4 bonus point wins on the season for Justin McCoy.
And good scramble position here. Both guys doing a job holding on to each other's ankles, and McCoy gonna slip that right boot in to get the takedown here to start the first period, less than a minute in. And McCoy's tough here on top, and you know, you mentioned a couple falls he has already this year. If he gets a fall in this match, it brings this match to 9-9. And
right now, Keith Gavin's squad up 9-3 after effective work from Camacho, Philippi Kemmerer, all winning duels to this point. Brian Courtney successful on the Virginia side of things over Cole Matthews, by way of a bit of a recap for you. McCoy ranked 15th, one of 10 different wrestlers we see tonight. Interestingly enough, 5 on each side that experienced ranking in their respective weight classes. So 2-0 lead early from McCoy as they go right at it at the edge of the circle.
He's got that tight claw, pulled it into the lap, gonna get 4 near fall, and the official's gonna call blood time. So 6-0 lead, about just over halfway through the first period.
Blood time unlimited, so whatever ends up taking place here as they work this out gives us a chance to remind you that our Sunday afternoon women's basketball lineup is as follows on the ACC Network and the ESPN app. It'll be Notre Dame and Syracuse at noon Eastern. Then number 2 Clemson is in Winston-Salem squaring off against Wake. And we cap the afternoon with Virginia Tech hosting the Tar Heels of North Carolina in Blacksburg. That's all on the ACC Network this coming Sunday in women's hoops. Well, to the down position goes Tyler Badgett, the San Diego, California native. Interestingly enough, for all the Pennsylvanians we've seen tonight, this go-round, the Pennsylvanian is wrestling for UVA. It's the California native on the mat for Pitt.
It's sad. Badgett was originally committed to wrestle at ODU, and a sad story, that program getting cut, gone too soon. Rest in peace to Old Dominion Wrestling. So made his way to the ACC, wrestling for Pittsburgh, and you know, as a freshman, 4-1 on the year. But one of the biggest differences between high school and college wrestling is wrestling on the mat, and Justin McCoy has proven that here early in the first period. 6-0 lead, and he's working on top. So he got that Blair ride, like a chicken wing almost.
And we mentioned that he's from Pennsylvania. To get specific for you, New Paris, Pennsylvania, Chestnut Ridge High School, from which Justin McCoy hails. NCAA qualifier in the 2019-2020 season at this 157-pound weight classification with an automatic bid. And in control here, 6-0 with 10 seconds and change remaining in the first round.
So 10 seconds left, and the difference between good wrestlers and great wrestlers is finishing periods on top. And we're gonna see here, McCoy shows why he is a great wrestler, getting that ride out with 10 seconds to go. Ends the first period with a 6-0 lead and over 2 minutes of riding time, so.
Something that has not been much of a factor in terms of riding time that we've talked about yet, but is really becoming a reality in this fifth match.
Yeah, so McCoy gonna get a real good first move, but can't jump the whistle, so his first caution of the bout.
And a reminder, 3 cautions before you are penalized to the tune of a point being awarded to your opponent. So tuck that one away in the back of your mind that it's just the first. We get another, what appears to be a blood stoppage for the moment. Stay 10-2. Tyler Badgett. Well, Steve Garland has to be very, very different, the feeling tonight, when he looks over there at that other bench and sees Keith Gavin, to know that someone who has been a part of your own investments, that time and that energy spent together, you got to have somewhat of a dual emotion, I would think, Christian, between excitement for them and success for them when they're not lining up against you, and at the same time wondering how much of that investment over the years and turns into a sense of pride as time moves forward.
Well, that's just the wrestling community in general, just so close-knit. You know, you've got so many people who want to help each other, and you see how many people have helped propel others to great success in their career. And nice escape and immediately back in, and that's just great wrestling right there. Immediately getting back in on the legs, looking to score points after he gets the escape. So
yeah, secured 2 on the takedown did McCoy, and now the total running to 9.
So 9-0, 2 minutes of riding time, and gonna basically have riding time locked up if he finishes this period on top. So he gets that left elbow out on the hip, looking to run that chicken wing or Blair ride like a bar. And that's just so much pressure on top from McCoy.
And we haven't had a major decision, much less a tech fall yet in this one. It's been all very tight matches through the first 4, but now you are on the verge of seeing McCoy put together that type of performance.
We're gonna see here, great escape by McCoy, and immediately passes that elbow, boom, in on the ankles on a low double, and just finishes real quick. That's how you stop those scrambles, is just finishing, getting those ankles off the mat, finishing quickly. So a good job from McCoy to get 1 and then 2 in less than 5 seconds. Popping that elbow up and going low on the ankles.
Take us inside that huddle and that conversation that we got a glimpse of just a moment ago between Coach Garland and Justin McCoy. What's the conversation like when you have this type of a commanding advantage in the middle stages of a match?
I would say more of the same, right? You're doing a good job. You're keeping a high pace. You're winning the hand fight. You're controlling the mat wrestling. You know, trying to create opportunities to score on the mat. He's already gotten near fall once. You see Coach Garland telling him to adjust his lock there. And you think that, you know, he's eventually going to wear on those shoulders of Badgett and be able to get the takedown. And you look at all this blood time we're having in this match. Probably a good idea we're cleaning the mats between halftime.
Yeah, this is the one you want this to happen, the one that's right before the intermission, which is coming up next. But begin to consider the position that Virginia's going to be in if this holds for Justin McCoy, and especially if he can come together with a bonus point type victory. This Virginia team that at one time was in danger of going down 9-0 found a way to steal away with victory with Brian Courtney, in position now with a solid finish by McCoy to going into the intermission in a really good spot against the 12th ranked team in the country.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You know, if you basically, you know, that's almost like splitting matches at that point when you go down 9-8 at halftime, losing the majority but winning, you know, only down by a point. Officials are they're gonna review that trip. They're gonna look to see if McCoy left his feet on that back trip to call the legal return. So let's watch. Let's see here.
Let's see if we can get another look at this one for you while the officials review it. Walk us through what you saw here, Christian.
Yeah, so we're paying attention to McCoy's feet. Does he leave his feet to do that trip? And yes, he does. That's an illegal back trip on that scissor. I'm expecting a 1-point technical violation on McCoy because he did leave his feet. Right, you could see from a very short glimpse, both feet are off the mat. And that's just really dangerous to do, right? You watch, as we've watched this replay a couple times here in the studio, you see that the knee of Badgett just kind of buckles as he goes. So watch both feet, boom, right there. He's off both feet. That's going to be 1 point. And that knee, that right knee just kind of buckles in between the foot of McCoy. So dangerous position, probably going to get a 1-point technical violation.
And after a bit of an extended review, it looks like they are ready to make the call. And you said it, the 1 point.
So great job by the officials to catch that, right? There was no challenge involved there. Looked like Coach Gavin kind of jumped off his feet and said, that's illegal. So.
And remember, no challenge either for Keith Gavin or Steve Garland at this point. They both used those. Coach Keith Gavin in that 149-pound classification, and right out of the gate for Coach Garland in the early stages of the night. So you're relying upon the officials at this point to catch it with maybe a little encouragement vocally.
Well, when you got two officials, you got to get it right. While the coaches do have their challenge, that's just their opportunity to throw the brick if they see something that they don't like.
And credit the officials in this moment, they did just that.
Yeah, and that's why you have two here. You've got some of the highest level wrestling in the country. McCoy lets Badgett up to his feet, so 9-2 with 50 seconds in the second period. We'll see if McCoy keeps up that high pace, and yes, he does. Right back in on that low single, coming out the back door, switches gets outside. Now he's looking for, if he can swim that left arm over the head, he can almost find a cradle here.
What was trending toward an almost sure major decision, now just 7 the separation after a good battle back effort by Tyler Badgett.
Yeah,
and now Virginia stretches it out a little more. Great work continuing from McCoy.
Yeah, riding time is locked up going into the third period, so essentially McCoy has a 10-point lead. And if you're in the orange singlet, you gotta be thinking, let's get my team that extra bonus point and get the technical fall, score 5 points, and widen the margin in the third. So
certainly changes things heading into the intermission. And you mentioned a technical fall now suddenly on the table for Justin McCoy once again.
So starting on bottom to begin the third period. He's going to let him free. 11-3 is the score, and McCoy just does a great job moving his feet on the reattacks.
Yep, it's been all the kinesiology major out of Chestnut Ridge High School in New Paris, Pennsylvania. Comes from an athletic family in his own right. Janelle, Stephanie, both sisters playing softball at St. Francis in Indiana, respectively. A lot like my partner over here. It's a family affair when it comes to athletics at the Division I level. It's been a pleasure and continues to be to have Christian Olenowski of Michigan State fame alongside to watch this one tonight between 12th ranked Pitt and Virginia. And it's heating up a little more here in Min Gym.
So it looks like the official is going to say no takedown for some reason there, but I think it was maybe something with that knee as that pass went through.
Oh, you can hear the elevation and energy from both of those benches as we get another glance at this.
So as Badgett rolls through, the official calls the takedown.
This is going to be a little closer perspective here.
So Badgett doing a good job holding on to that foot. McCoy starts to roll him over, gets the takedown. I think we're just getting a little bit of a blood time stoppage. So,
well, between the blood time and the official reviews we've had, this 5th match has taken about as long as the first 4 that we witnessed, and a couple of extra time battles. I mean, when you reflect for a moment, while we have an instant to do so, on what we've seen through this first 4+ matches, very entertaining from Virginia and Pitt both.
Right, and one of the things that you highlight early is Pittsburgh has won the trenches in those overtime matches. 2 overtime wins is the difference in the score. 6-point lead for Pittsburgh, 6 points won on the overtime matches. And then, you know, you look at the wrestling on the mat, as we talked about earlier, Filippi getting the early ride out in the second period to make, to make it 4-2 instead of 4-3 and then 4-4. Those points seem to be the difference where Louis Hayes had to go late. So
100%. That's what you see when you glance at that scorebook. 6 points secured in those 2 overtime battles. Still holding at 10, the advantage for McCoy now.
So McCoy got to get his knee over his toe, but rotates his leg. Now he's looking to elevate that leg, and this could be a nice cradle situation, but he steps through looking for that Turk.
And trying to use the right arm, but staying close. And is Badgett with under a half-minute remaining.
Badgett does a good job grabbing that foot, pulling it in, getting it close to his head. So the official has to call potentially dangerous, saves himself from giving up a takedown. So not really going to do anything, as regardless it's going to stand as a major decision.
Yeah, still very much in that major decision category with under 15 seconds remaining.
So and it 15 to go, 15-4.
Would be the first such decision for Virginia on the night.
McCoy just looks to outmatch Badgett here, wins 16-5.
A much-needed response from Virginia here, Christian.
And the difference here is the takedowns and the 4-point near fall to end the first, and that's it. McCoy, your winner, 157 pounds.
A strong push into the intermission from Virginia. Brian Courtney and Justin McCoy picking up wins respectively after a strong start from Keith Gavin's squad. It's still Pitt out front, but the deficit has tightened to 9-7. Welcome back to Mim Jim. Christian Olenowski is here. I'm Jason Patterson. An entertaining first 5 matches. Whole bunch of wrestling left, but let's take a look back at what we have seen so far, Christian.
Yep. So the big difference here really is those 2 overtime victories for Pittsburgh, 125 pounds. We saw Camacho get a nice takedown in overtime to take a 4-2 lead over Patrick McCormick to get Pittsburgh out to an early 3-0 lead, moving up to 133 pounds. 2 top 12 wrestlers, Louis Hayes and Mickey Filippi. The difference 6-3 with a late takedown at the end of the match, moving on to 141. Another great matchup, really highly contested, but Brian Courtney able to get a takedown with 10 seconds to go. Up to 149, Denton Spencer and Luke Kemmerer. Another matchup that was decided in overtime to make Pittsburgh jump out to a 9-0 lead, and then, 6-3. Then here, we got Justin McCoy getting that near fall at 157 pounds, and that makes the match 9-7 as we head into the halfway point.
Well, much more to anticipate, including that top 10 matchup at 197 between Bonacorsi and Aiello. Much to do between here and there. Stay with us. Back to Charlottesville right after this. Halfway home between Pitt and Virginia. Nothing settled just yet between these two. Entertaining first 5 matches, and you talk about entertaining when you look forward to what's about to happen at the 165-pound classification with a couple of wrestlers that have already been selected as Wrestler of the Year at one time or another along the way. There's a lot of excitement in the building at M Gym as these two get ready to go at it. It was this young man's effort in a top 10 matchup at the 165-pound classification that sparked the come-from-behind win against Navy.
Yeah, and Jake Wetzel, defending ACC champion, going to be taking on Jake Keating. The Battle of Jakes coming up here at 165 pounds. ACC Wrestler of the Week in early January. Jake Keating, ACC Wrestler of the Week
well, and
2 weeks ago.
His highlight moment, that 4-3 decision over number 10, Thomas Bullard, in the NC State duel. That'll get you noticed in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah, defeating a top 10 wrestler, always something to, to be excited about. And this is going to be a fun match. One thing I've always liked watching about Jake Keating, real fun wrestler. And Jake Wetzel, one of those guys that he'll throw everything at you, including the kitchen sink. Coaches better watch out for their chairs because Jake Wetzel might try to hit you with it if you let him. So
he's going to use everything at his disposal.
He's going to use everything. And one of those guys, it's really cool to see him wearing a Pittsburgh singlet. He grew up getting coached by a guy who is a Pittsburgh legend, Tyler Nauman, at South Park High School. Jake Wetzel, Pennsylvania state champion in high school, and wrestled under a Pittsburgh legend. So we'll see, another matchup. We've already seen one today, another matchup of two guys from the state of Pennsylvania.
And both right outside the top 10 in this weight class. 11th for Wetzel, 13th for Keating coming in. Guys who are handling the heightened expectations and, the elevated visibility. You heard Keating talk a little bit about it. We were listening into some of his comments earlier in the week, and he talked about how he appreciates the extra attention, but it has to keep him focused on his goal, that, he's getting all those All-American type honors and accolades, and talks about the goal not even being that, but being the national title. It's just great to know there's going to be a national title handed out this year, Christian. You think in terms of all the adjustments that have taken place. You've got a condensed season. You've got an unusual training calendar. It has been, I don't know any other word to use, than a different year all the way around.
Yeah, but we were talking about this earlier, right? Although it's a unique circumstance and really challenging for these athletes, it's really, for some of them it might be good, right? The guys that maybe are challenged academically, right, at a tough institution like University of Virginia, not having to worry about cutting weight over Christmas break right before you take finals. It could be, really beneficial for some of these guys.
Well, and the physical toll, we talked about that it can take on your body. Normally, you've wrestled 18 to 20 matches at this point in the season. You have all those tournaments that are no longer taking place. So you have an opportunity for a sprint-type performance versus a marathon-type performance for some of these individuals this year.
Yeah, so we'll see who sprints to the finish line here. 5 matches down, 5 matches to go. Pittsburgh leads 9-7, and we've got a top 15 matchup here. Number 11, Jake Wetzel, your defending ACC champion, taking on Jake Keating, number 13 in the nation, and they're going up top here early, and we said it. Yep. Jake Wetzel will throw the kitchen sink.
Quick 2. What are going to be the early indications in your mind of where this one sits?
Really, I think it's going to be if Jake Keating can keep the match close early in the bout, because Jake Wetzel, just one of those guys, you see they go up upper body. Keating tries to step through, but he just got his hips out a little too far, and Wetzel able to cover. So quick up to his feet. Wetzel locks his hands, and he's really good on top here. He's probably going to look to throw that right side leg in, and he does.
It's a quick start for the All-American. You see the advantage. A couple of wrestlers very closely ranked in their respective classes. And finishing up just on some of the changes, there will be extra individual matches that will be wrestled when the day is done, when our broadcast portion is done today. You're going to see that a lot because of the condensed schedule. They want to get as many reps for as many different wrestlers as possible at each of these events. The extra year of eligibility is going to factor in as a result of the COVID issues. I mean, some of these coaches are going to be recruiting their fourth years, their seniors, to come back, stay with us another year, the same way they recruited them out of high school. There are so many extra wrinkles that are now a part of this athletic season, but the good news is it will end in St. Louis. Fingers crossed, knock on wood for everyone, and it will end with a championship, which is much more than can be said for 2020.
Yeah, and you know, you got to guess, Coach Garland guessed or really wishing that the guys from last year would have gotten that extra year of eligibility this year. We could have seen Jack Mueller go and
Absolutely.
be, you know, try to get that national title, get that elusive national championship that the Cavaliers have been looking for. And before I keep rambling on about that, just want to apologize because I said Jake Keating was from Pennsylvania, but he's actually from Illinois. And I know those Illinois folks don't want to say he's from. They don't want to.
They're not going to surrender him easily.
They're not going to give Jake Keating up with the way he's been wrestling this year. So.
Well, there's one additional thing when you talk about in terms of national attention and states and everything else. The Olympics are happening this summer as well with the trials for the Olympics. I mean, that's another thing that's been put off that's going to be on the mind and on the radar and a focal point for a number of these premier wrestlers in the NCAA.
Yeah, you know, you see several athletes who've already taken Olympic red shirts. You look at guys from University of Michigan, already has 2 wrestlers who have qualified for the Olympic Games for their respective nations. Miles Amin for San Marino and Stevan Micic, who has already qualified for Serbia. So, you know, going to be exciting to see which other wrestlers and which college folks can take on the opportunity, you know, take on the challenge of representing the United States of America in Tokyo 2021. So a 2-1 advantage for Wetzel.
Yeah, you think about all those challenges, the adversity that's been overcome. You know, some have taken that, turned it into a positive. I think one of the guys, you know, most folks around the country would tell you that's done a nice job with that is Virginia head coach Steve Garland. You think about Christmas. I mean, there are pictures that exist of Steve Garland in the Christmas pajamas. He talked about taking something that most people view with pessimism and giving it a purpose, and that's just what he did with his athletes who were in some ways stranded here on grounds instead of able to go home for Christmas with the protocols in place.
Well, you know, it's tough, right? As an NCAA athlete, not being able to go home and see your family in a nice takedown for Wetzel at the end of the first period. And this is going to be big, finishing this period on top.
Boy, good, strong finish to the period for Wetzel.
So 2 seconds to go. We'll see if Keating can get out. But back to, you know, Coach Garland, you want to see your coach not only lead, but lead by example. And if he tells his athletes they can't go home for Christmas, you might as well, you know, bunker down and stay with them and be a true leader by example. And that's what Coach Garland is.
Well, there he is. Dad Elf, I think is what the shirt said. If you get a chance to look that up online. Instead of pictures and presents, it was practice and protocols. But I think it's safe to say that these coaches, these programs, they made the best of a difficult situation, and they've earned the right to compete, which they're doing in a very solid form here tonight.
Yeah, and
4-1, the advantage now goes to 5-1 for Wetzel as he tacks on another.
One of the things I'm seeing early in this bout, we're about 3.5 minutes into this, Wetzel is looking to force the upper body ties. And if you're Keating, you got to get your hips in and be able to wrestle there because he's already gained the advantage twice, got 2 takedowns, and he's got a 4-point lead in the second period. So got to start closing this gap, getting to your ties, and starting to create leg attacks because the upper body's not working for Keating so far. And he goes to throw that leg in with that 2-on-1, but Wetzel squares up. 2-on-1 again. Wetzel jacks that leg up, but Keating gets his foot to the mat. A nice Gadsden.
Look at the turn by Keating there.
Oh, he hit him with the Gadsden, and Wetzel rolled through, and he's now in on a shot of his own. So he takes a peek at the clock, notices he's got about a week to try to finish it in the center of the mat.
Quick turn of the tables.
Getting that foot up above his head. And the incredible balance of Keating here. Not finishing, got to make sure he doesn't hyperextend that knee, is he?
And the timing, everything. As you said, plenty of time left in the second round for Wetzel to determine his approach. Now 15 seconds as they're on the edge of the circle. Keating trying to find a way.
And the balance of Keating is incredible. Just fought that shot off with his leg in the air for 45 seconds.
And for almost a minute, he was able to stay in that position.
So Wetzel is going to get this foot up eventually here as he goes through. Nice. Wow, he goes through and like hits that Gatson. Kyvan Gatson coined that one, won an NCAA title with that move, pinning Kyle Snyder, eventual Olympic champion. Great job by Keating, immediately up to his feet. Wetzel throws that boot in, but this is where Wetzel's really, really good. He's really stingy.
And took a moment in that round two that you just saw a moment ago in which it could have easily been 5-3 and held it at 5-1.
So looks like it could be near fall for Wetzel, but he's kind of got himself on his back and putting himself in a very peculiar situation. So reversal here for Keating. Now he's got that cross wrist. We'll see if he can get that to like a seatbelt position and start to score here. So
riding time having gone by the wayside already, as you saw. And within two is Keating.
So gonna cut him loose. And this is one of those positions where Jake Wetzel is like the hardest dude in the world to wrestle, because he just is so, his wrestling IQ is through the roof. He knows where he needs to be in just about every match. So 5-3.
Safe to say he's a move or two ahead of you at most times.
Yeah, and not even just moves, 6-3, I apologize there, but not even just the move, just his IQ. He knows what it is, right? It's like those, we call them garbage time touchdowns in football. It's like Jake Wetzel knows when he can give up garbage time takedowns. He's up by 3 points. A 2-point takedown isn't going to be the difference here. So if he's got to give up a takedown, he knows where he's got to be. And he's just one of those guys, you're down 3 points. It's just a bad situation.
Well, after Virginia pulled within two at 9-7, following the solid performance into the intermission by Justin McCoy, the 11th ranked wrestler in the 165-pound classification, Jake Wetzel providing the answer for Pitt at the moment.
Oh no, that's gonna be a huge, so a takedown, looking for near fall, and if that was 1 second more, it would have made it 12-3. Could have been close to a Ridington.
Ends up being a win by decision instead, and Pitt back in the win column, extending the advantage. And they're dual meet with UVA. Tomorrow we'll have a big college basketball quadruple header. It starts at 2 Eastern, Miami and Wake Forest. That'll be followed by 16th ranked Florida State and Georgia Tech. Then it's number 8 Virginia, Tony Bennett and company taking on their Commonwealth rivals, the 20th ranked Virginia Tech Hokies. And then finally, Pitt hosting Notre Dame. If you're out and about tomorrow, you can always follow these games on the ESPN app. We'll have them all here on the ACC network. And if you're a Pitt fan, if you're a Virginia fan, part of that quadruple header allows you to see both of those teams in action on the hardwood tomorrow. We go back to work at the 174-pound classification. It is going to be Vic Marcelli for Virginia, Jared McGill 4-2 for Marcelli, 4-1 for McGill respectively, as he is on the mat for Pitt. And Pitt having opened up a little bit separation again on the overall scoreboard as we go back to work here in the 7th match of the night, Christian.
Yeah, they take a 12-7 lead. 4 matches to go, and this is a big one. This is the only matchup in the rest of the duel without a ranked wrestler. So, you know, this is really going to be the one that you look to see which team is going to put themselves in the driver's seat. Pittsburgh has the 4-2 match advantage, 5-point lead. And Vic Marcelli starts off with a nice takedown off that arm spin, gets 2 points, and he's out to an early 2-1 lead, 1:15 in the first period.
Greg Harvey coming up at the 184-pound classification. He's ranked 16th for Pitt. Then you've got that highly anticipated battle of top 10 wrestlers between Bonacorsi and Aiello, and it'll be followed up with Quinn Miller, who is a steady 20th for Virginia in the heavyweight classification. So those are the ranked wrestlers that you will still have a chance to see tonight. The streak for Aiello will be on the line. He's the remaining unbeaten across the final 4 matches in this battle between the 12th ranked Panthers and the Virginia Cavaliers. Interestingly enough, this is a Pitt squad that has dominated the all-time series at 7-1. The only win for Virginia coming back in 2015, a 17-16 victory in that duel back in 2015. And McGill trailing Marcelli early as the first round goes inside of a minute.
So Virginia looking to get their 2nd win all time against Pittsburgh. And if they win this match, it looks like they're going to put themselves in the driver's seat to do so. But
Pitt winning 5 in a row since that 2015 battle. These teams first met in 2010. They battled it out every year since 2014. Last season it was 23-10 at Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. Of course, that was the duel that saw Jack Mueller along with Spencer and Aiello pick up the wins for Virginia in what would eventually be a Pitt victory once more of 23-10 at Fitzgerald Fieldhouse last season.
my brother tells me he doesn't ever watch Pittsburgh matches because he wrestled at Fitzgerald Fieldhouse when he was in high school, winning the entire match and gets headlocked in front of 5,000 people.
So you just cut it off at that point. Here's another look at a highlight moment from this one. One more glance at the takedown here, Christian.
So really nice arm spin, gets behind and gets that trip, gets the takedown, 2-point advantage, and he's got a 1-point lead headed into the second. McGill starts on top to start the second, throws that right boot in, looking crossbody ride, but Marcelli, I think I just want to make him a little bit more Italian than he actually is.
You're working hard at it. You talk about Marcelli's position here, the down position. You were discussing earlier how difficult that is and what a defining characteristic it is of the best when they can handle that position well.
Well, one of the things that I just, as a broadcaster, as a coach, as someone who competed for so long, I don't understand why wrestlers pick the bottom position and don't immediately go up to their feet and they just want to roll around. Being in the state of Virginia right now, if anyone is listening, they're probably hearing, you got to hit a Granby roll, but I'm a traditional stand-up guy. I think you're gonna be a lot more effective getting to your feet because it allows you to create hip separation, fight the hands, and get right back to where you're good, and that's on your feet. So
you're going to see Marcelli's approach once again here on cue as he comes from that down position, and McGill.
But he gets to his feet, but he goes for that standing Granby, and he's right back in kind of a bad position here. So McGill, if he gets that leg back, now I want Marcelli to get up to his feet and just fight the hands and not try to roll, because when he gets to his feet, he tries to roll, he puts himself in danger. So McGill good on top, controlling the hips, keeping that leg in, and it's hard to roll around when someone's controlling your hips and they're not pressuring forward. So
you talked about your brother just a little bit ago. Vic Marcelli had an older brother, Lucas, who wrestled at Case Western Reserve before his untimely passing. So he comes in with a lot of history in this sport up and down his family life as well. A couple of older sisters, one of which played softball at Cleveland State. So as is the case for so many of these athletes, it is a family affair. They have to love what they're seeing from their family member, Marcelli, right now as he's up 4-1 on McGill.
Yeah, McGill was doing a good job controlling the hips. He looked for that crossbody and tried to pull that arm up on the guillotine, but Marcelli did a good job just swimming out as he did. So as McGill went to pull that arm back,
here's the reversal.
Marcelli just timed it perfectly, and watch him swim that right arm out as he tries to expose the back, and that was the difference there, swimming that right arm out. So
2 minutes now for McGill to respond as we go into the final round. Marcelli in control at 4-1.
And we'll see here, right? Good wrestlers finish periods on top. Marcelli has finished the period finished the second period on top, now 4-2. So we're in a position here to see who wants it a little bit more. Is McGill going to be the one to put the gas on here late? Or is Marcelli going to get an extra takedown and seal this one off?
The red shirt freshman McGill, another of those in Commonwealth products in Pennsylvania, Chestnut Ridge High. Finding himself at the mercy of Marcelli, who started the season 2-1, lost to an NCAA qualifier opening weekend, and Thomas Flitz, the tougher of the moments for him to start the season. But again, a 2-1 start, a 4-2 record overall, and Marcelli in position to try and build on that right here and right now with a minute to go between these two.
So Marcelli's got that right boot in, he's controlling that cross wrist, and by the sound of the crowd, looks like there was a stall warning there on bottom. McGill's got to start working his way up. Now riding time climbs in favor, but it's not going to be a factor in this match as he just gets to that 10-second mark. Controlling the hips, but McGill unable to get his hips off the mat and get any separation. So now with that cross wrist, Marcelli's going to try to ride this bout out for a win.
Only about 15 seconds from the mat to try and change the narrative for Jared McGill, and this would be a huge answer for Marcelli and Virginia, as right after Pitt opened it up to 12-7 on the scoreboard, he will come away with a win by decision. Boy, what a finish for Marcelli.
So 2 takedowns and a reversal is going to make it Vic Marcelli a 6-2 winner here at 174 pounds.
Well, after a good bit of back and forth between Pitt and Virginia, when you consider out of each of the last 6 matches, they have traded them, and now it'll fall on the shoulders of Boyertown, Pennsylvania's Greg Harvey, ranked 16th in his class coming in to tonight to reestablish the momentum for Pitt.
And taking on Virginia's Michael Batista, getting an early takedown over the ranked wrestler Harvey, take a early 2-0 lead, and this is exactly what UVA needed to start this 184-pound match, because if they win this one, they're up by a point heading into 197, what we're calling our main event of the evening.
And it would break that trend of the trade-off of matches that dates all the way back to the 133-pound classification, where Philippi followed up Camacho with back-to-back wins to start the night for Pitt. Then it was Courtney, Virginia, Kemmerer, Pitt, McCoy, Virginia, Wetzel, Pitt, and then Marcelli, Virginia. Harvey thinking it's his turn, one would assume. But Batista, here's a guy in Batista who had a strong finish to the season last year and has built upon that. He hit the 18-win plateau. He reached 3rd place match at the ACC Championships and has really turned the page to build upon that this season, Christian.
Yeah, Michael's just one of those guys. He's like a sponge. He's one of the most coachable athletes I've ever been around in my life, and he just loves to learn and he loves to work. So when you put all those things together, you put him at a school like UVA where, you know, you've got the good academics, he can learn from good people. Right, he's one of those guys that's just going to excel in this sort of environment. So Michael Batista, unranked so far this year, but, you know, he's got guys around him that really, you know, you look below him, you got practice partners like Vic Marcelli, and you look above him, you've got Jay Aiello, who's just, he's such a great leader, right? Guys like Jay, having him around, someone like Michael Batista, who's just a great worker, you know, those two just mesh so well, so.
And he's used to the bright lights, a 2-time state champion in the 5A ranks for Broad Run High School. Wrestler of the Year in Division 5A, 6A, was the team captain there at Broad Run. So when you talk about high ceilings, and we've done it with a number of these wrestlers tonight, Michael Batista at the 184-pound classification, another one of those that easily falls in that category.
Yeah, so really good hand fight through the first 2 minutes of this bout. Both wrestlers doing a good job faking, snapping, pushing, pulling, creating angles. Man, I gotta tell you, as much as I like Michael Batista, I got to question his choice of ankle socks today.
Oh, you were talking about some of the shoes you really did love along the way earlier, so you're keeping a good close eye on the footwear tonight.
Yeah, I'm real big on the cosmetics. Right? I got to make sure the apparel is looking right. And Michael Batista rocking the ankle socks, that should be a 1-point penalty on him.
Inside the final 15 seconds of this opening round, it's Batista with the slight advantage in the early stages.
Yeah, and Harvey's doing a good job pulling all the way down to his knees and looking for those ankles of Batista.
Here's our Sunday afternoon women's basketball lineup for you right here on the ACC Network. You can also catch up with it on the ESPN app. It'll start with Notre Dame and Syracuse. That's at noon Eastern. Then at 2, Clemson in Winston-Salem squaring off against Wake. And we'll cap the afternoon with Virginia Tech UNC. That one happening across the state in Blacksburg. All that coming up on the ACC Network. Little women's college basketball for you this Sunday. Into the second period. It looked like a strong start there for Batista right away.
So, yeah,
but Harvey able to get away.
Harvey started down to start that second period, and Batista was looking for a big lift. You know, a lot of effort there, but really no execution. And that's going to be, you know, an escape for Harvey and a little bit of a drain of energy for Batista. So 2-2 on the scoreboard, 20 seconds into the second period. Would have been a little bit cooler if I said 22 seconds into the second period. A lot of twos there at the 2-2 bout.
Deuces were wild all of a sudden for you. A couple on the board for each of these, under 90 seconds to go in this second period. You talked about the high school career of Batista just a moment. How about Harvey? 168 and 40, 3-time first place finisher in his district, in his section, as well as a runner-up finish in the region. He's a member of the wrestling club there at Boyertown all 4 years, while also competing for CPA freshman year through junior. Yeah, into his senior season, really seeing the progression that allowed him to be recruited into this Pitt program.
And Batista's doing a good job of getting to that knee pull single, but on that last one, he got so deep and he unlocked his hands. Harvey able to get that leg back and not let Batista score. So
well, the lead of 3 overall, but no separation between these two at 184. So just locked up right there in the center of the mat at the moment, Christian.
Well, and Batista is just really, really strong. One of those guys that's a really great hand fighter, exceptional in those positions, creating angles and getting to his ties. You look how Hardy, whenever he pulls, Harvey's stepping, he's biting on it. So what that does, come third period, your neck is tired, you've got all that strain, makes it a little bit easier to get to your angles and get to the takedowns that you choose. So
we'll go into that third period with these two locked up at 2 apiece. On deck, it's that top 10 matchup we've been waiting on. Aiello and Bonacorsi making final preparations as we speak. Whatever happens here between Batista and Harvey, that highly anticipated moment is just around the corner.
And a nice escape, quick for Batista, gets out in less than 10 seconds, takes a 3-2 lead. And this is exactly where he wants to be, but Batista, one of those guys, not going to take his foot off the gas. Really strong wrestler in the third period. And a nice snap to his shot by Harvey. Batista gets his legs back to an underhook.
Has a slight lead over the 2020 NCAA qualifier in Greg Harvey.
And Batista, one of those guys, he's always just right there just because of the way he wrestles, but this is going to be one of those matches that he looks back on if he wins and say, this is one of those matches that made me, kind of break into that next tier. So
we talked so much about the way he ended the year last year, and this certainly would give that sense of continued elevation of his ability.
Back to that knee pull again. He's got his hands locked, but Harvey breaks the grip, backs out, and looks like we're gonna get a stoppage here on blood time.
That's something that hasn't really been an issue since all the way back in that battle between McCoy and Badgett, which was right before the intermission. Well, this becomes You think about the way the table would be set between these two at the 197-pound classification should Virginia even things on the overall scoreboard with success right here.
Yeah, so big 53 seconds to go in this matchup. We'll see.
Well, let's talk about this matchup. Look at what's going on elsewhere around the ACC. That highly anticipated battle in North Carolina, NC State up on UNC. That's still very early in the night. Just 3 matches under their belts for the Tar Heels and the Wolfpack.
And if you didn't watch the match with UNC and NC State last year, go back and find the archive.
What a night in Reynolds.
Goes down to the heavyweight matchup, and Deontay Wilson, I believe it was, gets the takedown with like seconds to go to win the duel for NC State. One of the best duel meets I've ever watched in my life.
Oh, this one coming down to the wire. Inside 10 seconds, and Batista still with the slimmest of margins.
Good job controlling the hooks, and that's going to do it for Batista. Gets a big win, and that
will allow UVA to set the stage for that 197-pound classification as they pull into a dead heat with the 12th ranked Pitt Panthers.
Michael Batista gets a statement win for the Cavaliers.
The key matchup many have been waiting for tonight inside Men Gym. There's the defending ACC champion who is 6-0 on the year and still riding that streak that dates back to 2019.
And his opponent from Pittsburgh, and this is a change up here. We were expecting Nino Bonacorsi, but this says Hayes, and looks like, to me that looks like Nino, so I could be wrong, but in on the leg here of J.I.L.O. here early. J.I.L.O. taking on 8th ranked Nino Bonacorsi from Pittsburgh, 3rd in the ACC last year. He was at 184 pounds, moving up to 197, where he suffered a loss last weekend against NC State, looking to bounce back against the 3rd ranked wrestler.
Yeah, this had the potential to be a top 5 matchup. He was ranked 5th in the country until Isaac Trumbull. Again, Trumbull, who was in his collegiate debut, earned ACC Wrestler of the Week honors with a 6-1 victory over Bonacorsi. That's the reason this is a top 10 matchup instead.
Yeah, so Bonacorsi, looking to make up ground from where he was last week and start this match out with early attacks, but a 2-point takedown for Aiello, and that's where Jay's really good. He does a great job sitting the corner when guys get in on his legs. For a big guy, he's really good at defending and wrestling in those funky positions.
Both from inside their respective commonwealths. Bonacorsi from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Up in the D.C. area, Chantilly, Virginia for Aiello. Westfield High School product. Of course, NCAA qualifier. Back-to-back seasons, all ACC. Ahead of this and continuing to accumulate the honors. Aiello comes in with 3 wins by pin in 6 matches this season. That's just how good he has been.
Yeah, so he's got that boot in on the left side, and Jay's really, really tough here, right? And then when a guy of 200 pounds has a leg in, he's got his hips on top, you feel all his weight on you, that's not a comfortable position, right? And that's why he's so good at the collegiate level, because he wrestles like a little guy in the fact that he can sit the corner really well, he defends his legs really well, and then when you can ride to his caliber at this level, at this weight class, really makes for a tough matchup really against anybody.
If you're looking at it from Bonacorsi's perspective, coming off of the difficulty at NC State last week, what does he have to do to flip the script in this match?
I would say start by getting off the bottom. That'd be number 1. And number 2, I would say getting to the leg and doing what he did on the initial shot, where he was getting up and not letting Jay create a scramble. So getting that foot off the mat's really big, because Coach Mike Zadek said it, your chance of scoring a takedown once you get that foot off the mat increases from about 25% up to about 97% or something staggering like that. So I may have misquoted Coach Zadek, but I think my quote was pretty close.
You don't see it every day, a battle of All-Americans when you look at the career thus far of Bonacorsi. 21-8, second at the ACC championships in 19. The 2018-2019 season, 23-5, third at the ACC, and the All-American honors coming in 2019-2020. So the accolades are there on both sides in a match like this as we come to the end of period number 1. It's a 2-1 lead, slight advantage for Aiello. And let's look at the resume of Bonacorsi at the moment.
And a great resume for Bonacorsi, ranked number 8 in the nation, 2020 NCAA qualifier in 19 as well, and also multiple-time ACC place winner.
Yeah, second at the ACC in 2018-19, third at the ACC in 2019-2020. Just a tremendous performer, and he is going toe-to-toe with the gentleman who holds the crown in the ACC at the moment and holds the lead here. But how about the aggressiveness from Bonacorsi?
I thought that he gave Aiello the escape, and Bonacorsi got right back in on those legs, and that's going to be what he needs to do if he wants to win this match. He's got to not wrestle with Jay's hips, because for a big guy, those are real hard to wrestle with. So
Bonacorsi, a guy who was second in the country as he finished his high school career, and a two-time runner-up in the PIAA in 2016 and 2017.
Nice shot, quick finish for Bonacorsi, and that's what he's got to do to win here. He doesn't want to wrestle with Aiello's hips.
That's how it looked at the top level in his prep career, and he's translated it into his NCAA impact. 3-3 with a minute and change remaining in the second.
And Aiello does a good job getting up to his feet, but looks for that standing switch, brings him back down, and Bonacorsi smartly wrestles towards the edge, but Aiello does a good job getting to his feet, turning and cutting. And I think Jay's going to be a little bit more awake after that one. He said, that one was a little too easy. I'm not letting you get to my legs. I'm keeping those hands down.
Control of the matchup for grabs, and it's taken by Aiello at 4-3. But remember, control of the duel is also up for grabs. Virginia and Pitt knotted up at 13 apiece through 8 matches.
Yeah, and good swing single. And this is where Aiello was at the end of the first period. He's got to look to finish this here to end the second, but he's not going to be able to do it. Bonacorsi with that deep whizzer. So
just a half minute to make good use of the closing stages of round number 2.
I got to tell you, I've been talking about the cosmetics all day, the shoes, the ankle socks. Bonacorsi's got a sweet mustache.
Takes the eyes right off the lower level, right off the footwear, right up to the mug in terms of Bonacorsi. Here is Aiello locked in with him, under 10 seconds now, and it looks as if that slightest of advantages is going to be carried forward into the third round for Aiello. Well, let's glance back at a couple of the key moments, Christian.
So here, Aiello got to his feet, and immediately Bonacorsi in on a low single, runs to his left, and then a nice escape on the edge. Looked like Bonacorsi was going to try to pull Aiello out of bounds. And just looking at the size of these two guys, I have no idea how Bonacorsi wrestled 184 last year. He's a big guy, and this is it. This is where Bonacorsi needs to be, but Aiello improves his position, gets over top. He's got that far ankle. Bonacorsi looking to extend that foot and fight that out. But this is where Jay's solid. He's really good at attacking those ankles in this scramble position. If he kicks that foot over, he's going to be in a really good position to be able to score. But
Bonacorsi 23-5 last year alone in that 184-pound classification you mentioned, and third at the ACC championships, qualifying for the NCAAs a second time. It remains Aiello by 1, and you see the ride time coming a factor now.
And wow, that was slick. Oh, it looked like there was a 2 and a 1 and then a 2 again for Bonacorsi. So, but no, the score is actually 5-4.
It's Bonacorsi having pushed out front inside the final minute.
Looks like our score is wrong here. I think Aiello's winning. So again, Bonacorsi in, cuts him loose, looks to scoot the corner. Aiello got the ankles.
Even at 5 apiece with just over a half minute remaining in the highlight match of the night. And also even where it counts, Virginia and Pittsburgh counting on one of these two wrestlers to give them the advantage in the duel.
So Bonacorsi, a nice re-attack there, gets to the ankle and that looking to build up, but Aiello's legs wrapped up, so gonna hold Jay down and get the ride out. And what a way to rebound for Bonacorsi.
A big-time bounce back for Bonacorsi. Lost to a wrestler for NC State, making his collegiate debut a week ago. Here he upends the ACC champion, delivering Jay Aiello's first loss of the year. Nino Bonacorsi puts Pittsburgh back out front.
And a nice takedown. That's what gets it there for the 8th-ranked wrestler to take out number 3, Jay Aiello.
It has all come down to the heavyweight bout between the 12th-ranked Panthers of Pitt and the Cavaliers of Virginia. Welcome back inside Mim Gym. Historic arena, seeing a memorable night between these two, and it's up to 20th-ranked Quinn Miller for Virginia as Pitt holds that slight overall advantage of just the 3 points.
So coming down to the last bout of the night, and you would think that Virginia would be in the driver's seat with the higher-ranked wrestler at 197, but it's Pittsburgh coming away with the upset to put themselves in a position to win this match on the road.
Well, and that was right after Michael Batista did the same thing to a ranked wrestler in Greg Harvey in the match prior. So Virginia's stealing that to even things up at 13 apiece, right ahead of the beautiful bounce back by Bonacorsi. And now it's Jake Slinger at 5-1, representing Pitt on the heavyweight side of things. And I mentioned Quinn Miller finished with a pair of pins in the opening of the season against App State, really showing his ability early on, and he comes in still holding steady in the rankings at 20th for the Georgia native. 2 minutes remaining in the opening period. What's going through your mind in a moment like this, Christian, when you know not only what you're trying to accomplish relates to your own weight class, but that this has the overall match hanging in the balance?
Yeah, I think you can't be thinking about the big picture, right? As a wrestler, the good thing about it is it's an individual sport, right? The other 9 guys on your team have had the opportunity to win the match for your team up to this point. You can't think about the big picture here. You just got to think about it one position, one score, one period at a time. And if you do that, you're going to walk away with the win regardless of which team you are. So,
well, that's a wrestler out of the Olenowski family, Christian Olenowski. It's been a privilege to walk through this one with you tonight. That much is for sure. Of course, of Michigan State fame. Here's a young man on the mat right now for Virginia who had a brother, Jesse, who wrestled at Newberry College as well as Shorter University. And it's all eyes on his brother Quinn right now. Quinn Miller looking for what would be a 6th win this season and a key one for Virginia. And Slinger standing in the way with Pitt. Now Keith Gavin and company trying to close down a victory if things go Slinger's way here.
So one of the things that I just noticed here, 2 minutes into this bout, you saw that first exchange on the edge of the mat where, Slinger was warned for a stalling, right there in that position. Slinger pushing Quinn Miller towards the edge. Quinn circles his butt back to the center, wrestles back in, and shoots Slinger off the mat. This time, no stalling call. Could have put Quinn Miller at a 1-0 lead early in the first period, but nothing there. So 0-0 and a good snap, almost created an angle. I gotta tell you, it looked like Quinn slimmed down a little bit since last season. Looks like he's a little bit leaner here, so.
Why wouldn't these two be even through the first round, at least into the closing seconds of it, when that's how evenly their two teams have battled it out against one another through the first 9 matches. Well, a reminder, tonight at 8 Eastern, we'll have our next bald men, I guess you have to say, not on campus. Jay Billis, LaFonso Ellis, Seth Greenberg previewing the ACC slate of weekend games. What a slate it is. They'll also have the latest news from all around the conference. It's only on the ACC network and the ESPN app. into the second round. Again, Virginia trying to secure a meet against Pitt. They came into tonight having dropped 5 in a row. Pitt leading the series 7-1 all time and having tasted victory 23-10 at Fitzgerald Fieldhouse a year ago. Been anything but that kind of separation here tonight. And Christian, now we find ourselves inside the second round between two wrestlers not giving an inch at the heavyweight level.
So
down position for Slinger here as an opportunity presents itself for Quinn Miller.
Yeah, so a ride out here would be huge for Quinn Miller. Not only the, not letting Slinger score, but also racking up that riding time. So good job, Quinn Miller. Got a boot in. He's looking for 2, and he's got Slinger extended flat on his belly. So this is a huge match, right? Virginia needs this win to go to even have a chance at winning, and we're going to go to ground to criteria if we tie.
These two trying to, as you said a moment ago, handle the business directly in front of them without too many worries about the big picture. But for everybody else inside Mim Jim and the fans of the 12th ranked Panthers and these Wahoos, it's all about who's going to come out on top here tonight, and it will be settled by Miller and Slinger, who are inside a minute remaining now. As you see the ride time come out of the bug in the heavyweight bout in the second round.
And near fall here, looking close to a fall.
Very close.
This is huge for the Cavaliers. Can Quinn Miller get it? He doesn't, but 4 points.
He gets the max, the 4 points going in the corner of the Virginia heavyweight. And now you start thinking about a bonus point victory and what that would mean to the overall duel here tonight if Quinn Miller could really rack some points up.
Right, and this is the big question here. You're going into the third period, you're up by 4. Do you choose bottom? Do you think about flipping the script and allowing your opponent to get that 4-point near fall on the ride out back? Or do you do what you've been doing well? Do you pick top?
We're about to find out. 2 rounds in the books.
I'm a gambling man.
9 2/3 duels in the books here tonight. And if you wonder what's going to happen, as you see just how much energy there is coming off that Virginia bench at the top of your screen, you have to be wondering, well, how does it settle in terms of everything coming together? Well, Virginia on the verge of showing us.
And the takedown, and this is it. This is it. He's looking for the fall, and that's huge. 2 takedown, 2 near fall.
Slinger just able to spin there.
Wow.
And it's at 7-0. Obviously the major decision, if 1 more point could be secured by Miller, is the game changer tonight.
So 7 points, 1 point for the riding time. And what Slinger has to be doing right now is thinking about getting 1, right? You're not at this point. Right, so looking at the criteria here, for this, we're going to be tied 5-5 criteria. Total number of falls going down to, that's going to be 0, right? So we're going to be going down to criteria number 3.
You take it all the way down to match points, at which point Virginia becomes the winner, even if they're only able to tie here.
Right, and that's where that big match by Justin McCoy scoring 15 points is the difference.
But right here, right now, you got the ride time factoring in, the 7 points on the board. And with 40 seconds to go, Virginia fans thinking about an outright victory perhaps here. As you said, you can't help but think back, Christian, to the job that Justin McCoy did heading into the intermission with those 15. Perhaps the difference maker, depending upon what happens across the final 20 seconds.
And big 20 seconds here. Can Jake Slinger get out and get 1? He gets to his feet, but Quinn Miller, and look at that bench.
They can sense it in Mim Jim.
Electric.
In position to salt it away and close it out. The 20th ranked wrestler in the heavyweight class, Quinn Miller, is going to hand it to Virginia with a solid finish on the night.
And I got to tell, a great finish and a